Hey, what's up, friends? Welcome back to Culture Binge, the wisecrack podcast that is your unreliable narrator in the ongoing story of our cultural zeitgeist. I'm your host, Michael Burns, joined as always by the person who said if they were my boss, they would gladly get me an annual $15 Southwest Airlines gift card. Serby. Serby, how are you today?
A lot better than Southwest Airlines and all their delays.
Boom. And our special guest today, who is calling in all the way from a country that has a magical queen who's never going to die, no matter what leading medical professionals might tell us, Robin Chowdhury. Robin, how are you today?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm great. I'm tired, but I'm good.
Do you know where the queen is? She's supposed to show up places, then she's not there. I'm getting very concerned as a dedicated monarchist.
Yeah, well, I invited her to a flat party the other day and
Uh-huh.
she didn't show up. So you never really know with the Queen. She's kind of a wild card.
She's like that, isn't she? Okay, well, today, along with talking about our deep-seated love of all monarchies, we're going to talk about bosses who are acting like Oprah. We're going to talk about a very, very, very sad tragedy that took place on a film set last week and some other various odds and ends. So to get started, I'm going to try a new thing, something that happens every time we do Culture Binges. There's a lot of stuff that happens. We only have so much time. We can't always talk about the big topics. So I want to bring up a couple things that we maybe would have gotten into if we had more time that I kind of find interesting. So a question for you, Robin. Did people use the website Zillow in the UK? Is that a thing over there?
I have never heard of Zillow in my life.
Oh,
So, I
this
mean,
is good for you. Yeah. Well, you'll learn about it. Serby, question for you. Are you one to go on Zillow and look at fantasy houses and things like that?
no, I don't use Zillow, but I look at Sotheby's and Christie's.
Oh, that tells me a lot. I like it. So, for anyone who doesn't know, Zillow is a website that offers real estate search functions, and it's become popular enough that SNL parodied sort of broke millennials who are constantly on Zillow looking at houses. What's recently come to light is that Zillow has been buying a lot of houses and using algorithmic data they gather to figure out how to buy stuff at the right price, what renovations to make, to then mark those houses up. And there's been some speculation this is one of the factors pushing up real estate markets around the country. Zillow has had to pause their home buying. So I'm, very sad. Rest in peace, Zillow home buying. But they announced they were going to stop buying and renovating homes through the end of the year as they work through a backlog of properties, and they're blaming worker and supply shortages. So I'm glad it's low-paid construction workers' faults that Zillow can't keep doing this. And they told shareholders that they purchased almost 4,000 homes in the second quarter of 2021, which is a major increase. So I don't know. The thing I find interesting about this is just the idea that this website that everyone uses largely for fun, to be like, ooh, what could we buy? What's for sale? All that data is just then getting used to facilitate their purchasing of homes and driving up prices in real estate markets. And I just find it to be such an apt analogy for the way in which so many of the things we do to waste our time on the internet in mindless ways are just harvesting data that gets used against us. I don't know. I find this endlessly fascinating and horrifying.
I'm terrified of this sort of thing. And I feel like it's always happening. Like a girl can't even do anything in this world without it being tracked.
Yeah. I mean, there's very little you can do in terms of sort of mindless online window shopping without that sort of thing. Is there something, Robin, that's analogous in the UK right now? Like any websites people, and I feel like I don't mean this in a weird way, young and cool enough to not be like, ooh, real estate, real estate, real estate. But for those of us who are in more washed age brackets, it becomes a thing. But is there anything similar on that side of the pond?
Probably. I mean, like, I like looking at nice flats and things,
Yeah.
but usually that's when I actually have to like move. Like the idea of buying a house is insane to me. But I'm sure we probably do. It's just never become part of my life.
Well, this is good. If you're not already addicted to platforms like that, don't become addicted to it. So, yeah, but I'll be curious to see what happens with Zillow there. I think another related thing is, and I'll ask Robin again, and I think this is a thing in the UK. I know specifically for the lorry drivers and oil and everything. But is the supply chain thing in the news over there? Are people talking about supply chain issues?
There was a big thing about petrol. I don't know if you saw
Yeah.
that. But I think at the moment that's the biggest, that oh my God, we don't have any kind of thing going on at the moment. And everyone was obviously like, oh, it's Brexit or it's COVID. So I don't know. I don't even know. I think because people have stopped panic buying stuff, there doesn't seem to be any noticeable issues with supplies and stuff. But
yeah, Serbi, have you felt any of the supply chain urgency or anxiety on your end?
I have, because not in my personal life, but in my professional life, I have, because a lot of things are, there's like less availability. There's a lot of urgency to like place the order by October, place the order by November. And so that creates a lot of panic for me to try to think of like, what if I place the order and it's not going to arrive?
Yeah, and there's been a few articles about this recently, probably more than a few tons. But there's lots of factors. I know one thing in Los Angeles is I guess there's ships that have been outside the port of Los Angeles for going on months now, where they're just circling because some of the crew members don't have like the right vaccinations to technically be allowed to like enter the country via the port. So these ships are just circling and have a bunch of stuff on them. I know recently I was involved in trying to acquire an automobile, and a big thing, if you try to buy a car right now, everyone is telling you about the chip shortages, that there's these chips and all the cars use these chips, and that's why we can't have the cars because of the chips, and that's why used car prices are up by like 36%. And then a lot of the companies right now are saying things like, do your holiday shopping now because this goddamn supply chain, which does make me kind of skeptical that some of this is a way in which companies can be like, buy more stuff now so that your grandma still gets a Christmas present.
Yeah, I agree. And it's a really great way of increasing prices and blaming it on something else. Oh, it's a supply chain issue.
Yes. That's the thing with all of this. And it's kind of like the Zillow thing as well. Another way where people can jack prices up. Last thing I want to touch on really quick, because it's been a big part of the conversation this week. Have either of y'all seen the movie Dune?
No.
Not yet.
Well, nothing to talk about then. Dune came out. It was a big deal. People were excited about it. They're going to make another one. I thought it was solid. My experience of it was seeing it in a smaller theater, kind of like an art house thing. And 5 people walked in as I was sitting there waiting for it to get started, took one look at the screen and got fucking pissed and left and demanded refunds because they wanted it on like a bigger screen. But it's like, dude, don't go to an art house cinema to see Dune if you want to see the IMAX version of it.
That's weird.
Is that the one that's like 2 hours long or something?
2.5 hours long, I think.
Okay. Yeah. I've friends of mine have seen it, and I think like lots of them really enjoyed it, but then one of them fell asleep because she was like, you've got to be fully invested in a movie if you're going to watch it for that long. And I just wasn't. So, I mean, she got to have a nap.
Is there an intermission? This reminds me of like those Bollywood films that are like 2.5 hours.
No, but I was tweeting about this the other day. I think any movie 2 hours longer or more should have an intermission included, because my new thing is every movie I see, I'm just like, when can I go to the bathroom? And then people look at me because I'm just sprinting down the hall. And I think it freaks people out because they're like, is there like an active shooter event? Is this the first guy who got away? But it's just that I want to miss the least amount of dialogue from whatever slow European film I'm watching and get back in my seat to see the rest of it.
Once I went to the toilet while I was watching Deadpool 2 in the cinema. Mm-hmm. And you know that scene where literally everyone in that group of people dies?
Yes.
It was during that. I went to the toilet during that, and I came back and I asked my partner at the time, like, what happened? And he was like, literally everyone died. Everyone died. And
when
I was like,
When I did see Dune over the weekend, I got so excited when I realized the theater I was in, the door was parallel to the men's bathroom. And I was just like, yeah, baby. And I sat near the back. So I was like 30 seconds in and out. Maybe I washed my hands. Maybe I didn't. Let's not talk about it. So speaking of things that Meg is excited or mad, let's hit slaps and chaps really quick. As everyone knows, this is when we all talk about something that slaps, i.e. that we are enjoying in our lives in the zeitgeist and culture, and something that chaps, i.e. chaps our ass, something we are not enjoying. So, Serbi, I'll start with you. What are your slaps and chaps this episode?
So what slaps is that I'm on vacation for the first time in a couple of years. I'm very excited. It's it's really nice to be away from my house. And as Burns said, from the corner in which I do every episode. What slaps is that, well, it's more of a chap slap combo. So I'm also going to do some international travel with a friend. Yes, very excited, also very nervous. We're going to go to Spain sometime in either December or January.
Amazing.
So that slaps. What chaps is that we're going in December or January when it's going to be very cold.
I was about to say.
Yeah. So I'm going to be talking about this quite often, about this trip to Spain, because if anybody has any ideas on like fun things to do, we'll likely be in Barcelona, Madrid, and Valencia. So if you have any ideas on cool stuff, please let me know. I did find a speakeasy that I want to go to.
This is very apt for your trip. Just today, the website eater.com put out the Eater Guide to Barcelona, their first comprehensive international eating and drinking travel guide.
Yeah.
We are not sponsored by Eater, by the way. I just saw that today and thought it was super cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. That was really great. Yeah. So if anybody has any ideas, if you live in Spain, would love to hear your tips.
Spanish Culture Binge listeners and friends, reach out. Awesome. That's cool. Wait, so that was your slap and chap, but that was good. I like when the chap is like not even that negative. It's just the downside of a good thing.
Right.
Robin, our official European correspondent, how about you? Well, what are your slaps and chaps?
Slaps is good, right? Yeah.
Slaps is good,
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Slaps is the good one.
Cool.
Chaps is the bad one.
Okay, they rhyme. It just gets mixed up in my head.
Reasonable.
And obviously, because I'm British, I say chaps all the time. Like, how you doing, chaps? Every day, pretty much.
I've never thought until just now how that's alienated a huge contingent of our audience who are just like, why are they referring to friends as a bad thing?
I mean, friends are awful. Don't have them.
Hot take. Okay, slaps. No. So what's something? What's something you like? Something that you're excited about?
I'm not excited about it anymore because it's already happened. But yesterday, me and all of my staff went down to Nottingham to do the games at our sister business, Cryptology Nottingham, and like the escape rooms they have there are insane. They are so much better than the one that I run, but like it was amazing. There was this one where you were in a dream and you had to go through 5 dreams to wake up this professor who got trapped in her own lucid dream, and it was just mind-boggling, and it was amazing.
Wow. Do you know that I was once a resident of Nottingham?
I did know.
Yeah.
I've seen your LinkedIn.
I got it. Whoa, don't be a creep. That's only for employers to look at. I'm kidding. That's so much fun though.
Yeah, if you ever revisit Nottingham, you should definitely go. It was really cool. And then chaps. I think last time my chap was work related, so I'm not going to be work related this time. I'm just annoyed that in Tesco they've started their Christmas things already, and I think it's too early. I saw discounted Christmas cupcakes the other day because they'd obviously made them already, and they've started going off already. Because they made Christmas cupcakes.
And can I say one note for our listeners? Tesco is a very popular chain, food and goods store in the United Kingdom, like a grocery store chain.
Yeah, I didn't know if you guys had Tesco or not. So I just, I threw the word out there.
They opened a Tesco in America like 5 years ago at some point.
They?
I forget what city it was. I think it closed. I got so excited because I think Tesco kind of rules. But yeah, they tried it out. I don't think it worked. I think it's because Americans are weird about eating pre-wrapped sandwiches.
What do you do with this? What do you do?
If we're gonna get a sandwich, you're just going to go to a place and a human's going to make it most likely. But the whole notion of like going to a store, the only place that would do that is like a 7-Eleven, and it's like considered gross.
No, Trader Joe's has sandwiches that are pre-made.
Yeah, they do like wraps and stuff, but I would just say Trader Joe's is not as like ubiquitous. You know what I mean? It's
right,
like it's Trader Joe's, whereas Tesco is like everywhere.
Yeah.
And I would proudly eat many of their prepackaged foods.
Mm-hmm. They've got great stuff.
Proudly is the right word, but yeah. So there we go. So yeah, screw you, Tesco, and your early Christmas. It gets earlier every year. I just hate it.
Making Christmas cupcakes is a very bold move at this time. Like,
And
I
it's
thought
like-
that they had decorations and, you know, some minor Christmas touches, but a cupcake, that's really committing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's obviously not just that one shop, it's all of the Tesco's across the UK. So it's not even like a quirk. It's
well, if you're near a Tesco, burn it down to the ground right now. I'm kidding. Don't do that. I'll quickly do my slaps and chaps so we can get into the rest of the show. Slaps. I saw some live music this week. It was awesome. I saw the band Wilco live, and and Faye Webster, who I love, opened for them. It was in a beautiful venue. It was really great. And it was like the most responsible music audience I've seen in the few shows I've been to. Like, they checked vaccination cards and everyone was like chill about it inside the venue. People really did do the thing where they mostly just had their mask on when they weren't, drinking beers. And it was nice. It just felt like a very nice environment. That's what happens when you go to see a band that older people like, because old people just don't want to die. So they're like, I'll wear a mask because I don't want to die. Whereas a young person concert, they're just like, I'm going to live forever. Screw you, rules. A thing that chaps, I'm going to be vague about this. I think it's been pissing me off all week. So if anyone's ever read ancient Greek philosophy, you'll see the thing where Socrates, Plato, and friends will talk about the sophists and how they hate them. Sophists are just these legendary bullshitters that sort of acted like they were philosophers and teachers, but they just wanted to get paid money by like rich kids' families or whatever to spew bullshit. I think we currently have a gnarly new era of sophists, and I hate it. And I'm going to call these academic grifters, people with backgrounds in philosophy or other things that like go online and have like debates against very shitty people that believe super gnarly things and act like that's academically or intellectually virtuous. It's just bullshit. And when people do this, they're just trying to get clicks. And I get it. I want clicks. I want people to listen to this podcast. That's great. But I don't want to do grifter shit to do it. So I don't know. Any like academic or person that masquerades as a philosopher that's online debating with little demons and acting like there's intellectual virtue to that is completely full of shit. Now, speaking of being a grifter and full of shit, like, subscribe, and review to this podcast. It means a lot to us if you do it. So whether you're on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, favorite the show, like the show, means a lot to us, and review it. And have fun in the review. We always say, do a review where you tell us what we would be in a particular categorization of things. So whether that's which ice creams we would be, which EU nation we would all be, I don't know, which sort of like registered mental illness we would all be. Don't do that.
No,
just pick a category of things. Yeah, I think it would be really accurate, and it would be dark, because then I would be like, shit, I've paid so much money to go to specialists for this when I could have just asked an anonymous iTunes podcast reviewer. But do that if you get a chance. Now, awkward transition here. No way to get into this topic without things feeling a little down. And just a heads up, this topic involves talking about someone being killed and a really unfortunate act on a film set. If that's something that really bums you out, which I get, I would say fast forward about 15 minutes or so. But something that's been in the news and has been a big story this week is a very tragic accident that happened on the set of a film called Rust that was filming in New Mexico, starring Alec Baldwin. And the cinematographer on that film, Helena Hutchins, was killed on set when Baldwin shot a gun containing live rounds. Now, just to be clear, I think there was some really unfortunate coverage of this when it happened that was like Alec Baldwin kills someone. I think Alec Baldwin as a person like sucks, has done a lot of terrible work, and his Trump thing was stupid. He's also blocked me on Twitter. Like, what's up, Alec? But it is in no means any actor's fault when something like this happens. It is a tragedy, but we are not here to make like jokes or say horrible things about someone who was caught up in a bad situation. And I know I feel genuine empathy for everyone involved in this. But it was a horrible accident, and a lot of the discussion around this involves the question of like, why was a gun with a live round on set, and why was that used? Now, a few things that have come out in recent days, and it's kind of like an actively updating story. I think that the LA Times has done a really good job of covering this. So if you are interested, I would check out the LA Times website. But it's come out that the gun used by Baldwin was used by crew members that same morning for live round target practice. They were going out on set and shooting beer cans to kind of let off some steam. I think just today, sheriffs have found that there were over 500 rounds of ammunition on set, including blanks and live rounds. Now, Baldwin did not fire this gun, and they did it when they were setting up a shot, until the first assistant director confirmed it was a cold gun, which is the on-set terminology for gun with no live ammunition. So that was said. But since the initial story came out, and I'll say a few more things, we'll talk about it. But one of the big things that came out was just a day before this tragic accident, members of the film's crew, in particular the camera crew, walked off set due to poor working conditions, being paid late, bad transportation. And this normally, because of IATSE rules, and that's the union that contains all of the below-line workers in Hollywood. Below-line just means, people that aren't the actors and writers, let's say, people who are making the magic happen. But producers, rather than having a shutdown, they hired non-union crew to continue the shoot. And these crew members, not the non-union ones, the union ones, had been complaining especially about lack of safety protocols and discharges of prop guns. So this had already been complained about by union workers on set. And it seemed very clear as they continued to investigate that safety protocols were not followed on set. Along with this, the lead armorer, who was the person responsible for gun safety, was only 24 years old, and this was only their second film. So there's questions as well of, should the person responsible for managing all these things be there? And the last thing I'll say here is there's been a lot of calls, and I think a lot of these calls have been well-intentioned, but have largely been from people who I think do not work in the film industry, that are simply saying, no guns on sets. We should never have guns on sets. Why is this happening, et cetera, et cetera. But I will say that from listening to people inside the film industry, their main complaint doesn't seem to be we don't want guns or whatever on set. It seems to be that the overall safety protocols and working conditions on film crews are toxic, are dangerous, are inhumane, and things like this and various safety hazards and tragedies will continue to happen as long as people are working 14, 15, 16-hour days, as long as there aren't adequate resources put towards safety and things like that. And of course, this happens right on the back of the negotiations between IATSE and the film industry. And a lot of that comes, once again, from people who work on film sets complaining about unsafe working conditions, not having enough resources, all that sort of stuff. So that's the main gist of the story here. Is this something that I assume that y'all heard about pretty quickly after it happened? I think this took place last Thursday.
Yes. So I heard about it like maybe 10 minutes after the story broke online. I'm so, well, first of all, super saddened by the whole thing and shocked, but very confused. For some reason, I thought that all the guns that were on these movie sets and film sets, I thought that they were fake guns. Like, I didn't know that they were real. I thought that they were just plastic fake stuff. So yeah. I was shocked that they were real and capable of firing things. And then when I read the story about how there were accidental discharges and misfires or something like that of these like blanks, I was again confused because I just assumed that none of that was real. Like, I thought that it was like a special effect thing that like when you shoot the gun, I didn't know that it was that there was something actually coming out of it.
Yeah. The sense I get is that like the lower, this is a lower budget indie film, and that, obviously when we watch like a Marvel movie, it's just people standing in front of green screens in Atlanta and everything is just added in post. I imagine that the lower budget that a film has, the more likely they have to use practical effects and props. Although I do, just a friend who works in prop departments had said online that there's basically no reason to have live rounds on set ever in the year of our Lord 2021. So that that shouldn't have been happening. And it does sound like part of this has to do as well with, because I know often real guns will be used, but with blank bullets, so that you have the real gun and it does make that sound, but it's not shooting a bullet. It seems like part of what's happening, and a lot's still coming out in the story. So, you know, when this episode comes out, maybe a new report comes out and this information is not fully up to date, but it does sound like what had happened is people were bringing live rounds onto set to kind of like screw around in downtime.
That is unbelievable. I'm so sickened. That's unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, it's just like another example that really sucks of how the stuff that we love to consume so often can be made in such shitty conditions. And you know, we all know how much money is in the Hollywood industry and in the film industry. So to continually see people that work in that industry get put in really unsafe conditions and work to the bone is just really heartbreaking. And I think there's, in the past week, a lot of other stories have come out. Many things I had never heard of about people who have been, you know, severely injured or killed on film sets. But often we don't hear about it because it's, you know, it's below the line workers and not the actors and stuff. And I do think like the film industry as well has been so progressive, I'll use finger quotes here, on so many social issues, but it seems like they're really long overdue for a reckoning of like, well, how socially progressive are we when it comes to how we treat the people that make our movies and we're on sets and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I also find it's so disheartening that when people complain and highlight these examples of horrible working conditions and unsafe working conditions, that rather than remedy the situation, they're just let go and we just hire people who have less power. So we're already taking advantage of people who don't have that much power and finding people with even less power.
Yeah. And just that thought too, that like in this situation, rather than doing a 1 to 2 day work shortage, the producers just said, screw it. Rather than addressing their safety concerns, we're going to hire non-union local crew and just keep shooting.
That is baffling.
Yeah. I saw a tweet today that someone had posted that I thought was, it seems like to be a distillation of what a lot of people that in the film industry think about this. This is from actor Ethan Embry, who was in a lot of like very fun late 90s, early 2000s movies. But actor Ethan Embry said, and this is on Twitter, at Embry Ethan, if a union crew was on the set of Rust, this conversation wouldn't be occurring, and Helena Hutchins would still be alive. That should be the focus. The producers of Rust created an environment where IATSE union professionals resigned due to unsafe work environments. And I think, again, that seems to be getting at the idea that if the focus is just on blaming individuals or making sick jokes about Alec Baldwin or just saying like, oh, they shouldn't have guns on sets, that is missing the overall point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah, very. And I don't want to, Robin, if you have any thoughts on this, feel free to jump in. I don't want you to feel like we're just going off on this. But yeah, it's a huge bummer.
Yeah, it's just like it's hard for me to even comprehend because obviously, like, I'm in the UK. No one has. I mean, to be fair, I grew up in a county with a bit more guns than the rest of the country because of the farmers. But like, just the idea of holding a loaded gun is so alien to me. And so yeah, but obviously I can fully sympathize with the whole like poor working conditions and stuff. Like, the people that have to work on sets must be having a real hard time quite a lot. And like, I read a bit about like they don't often unionize in that like industry, and it was like a really big thing that people were like, let's walk off set, let's stop doing this. And then like straight after that there was this horrible tragedy. So it's just awful.
Yeah. And this does, we've talked about, we do talk about work a lot on this podcast, and something we have touched on before is that toxic line between doing what you love but then loving what you do, creating really messed up conditions. And I think this is one of those. A lot of people get involved in the film industry because they love movies. They want to be involved. They want to work on set. And of course, not everyone can be, Angelina Jolie or George Clooney. Some people just want to like be involved running cameras or doing grip or doing sets and lighting and makeup. And most of the people that especially live in Los Angeles are people that make like decent livings getting to work on movies. And I think for a lot of them it is because they just want to be around that. They want to contribute to this thing that they love. But it's unfortunate because when you want to contribute to the thing that you love, and just in general, look at the working conditions of PAs in the film industry. It's horrible. You have people that are in their mid-20s who are making like below minimum wage, working 80-hour weeks, getting treated like shit by people that are a few years older than them. And it just kind of keeps going up the line where there's this expectation that like, well, if you want to work in this industry, you have to settle for these sort of conditions. And, if anything, you would hope a tragedy like this can truly, truly, truly lead to like actual change, not just no guns on set, but questions of how do we treat the people that work in this industry, and as consumers of that sort of content, how much do we stand with the people that really make this stuff happen and not just the pretty people on the posters?
That's a good point. As a consumer, I don't know. Do we just not? We don't watch those films and those productions. But as the first part where you said, will this lead to real change? I think it could on like larger productions, but with these like indie films and stuff, and like there's just I don't know a ton about the film industry and the entertainment industry in general, but my sense is that there isn't as much oversight. There isn't as much like power. Like it sort of feels a little bit like you get some money, you bootstrap it, you get it done. Is that accurate?
Well, I mean, yeah, the hard thing. So when you're working on like a small production or making a short film or something like that, yeah, there's always the question of, are you calling in favors? Are you paying people less than they should be paid to work on this? Can you pay union rates? Can you not? All this sort of stuff. And I know that it's an issue. I've when friends are working on shorts or short films, the question often is like, do we call in favors because we don't have money, or on principle, do we insist on paying anyone who works on our shit like a union minimum to perpetuate that sort of stuff? But it's hard because I didn't realize until moving to Los Angeles how expensive it is to make stuff. But even making like a 5-minute short with your friends is thousands of dollars to make something that actually looks good. No matter what the iPhone 13 commercials want you to believe about making stuff like that. So I don't know, not to be sort of preachy, but I do think for anyone who is listening to this podcast who loves content and watching things, I'm sure most of us do. I just think there's always a value in digging into how the stuff gets made. And it's like the same thing. Like you love food and going out to restaurants, like learn about like the conditions of the people who make your food. If you're into film and television, learn about what it's like on a set, who makes this stuff. And I think not that, us individually knowing things is going to radically change the world, but I think it is important to pay attention to how the stuff we like is produced and who makes it, because in this instance we're seeing a real human being, a person who by all accounts was beloved, was really coming up in her career. I have some acquaintances who know her and worked with her and have had nothing but glowing things to say about how amazing and creative of a person this was and how tragic it is that this person lost their life. And I think it's just important to think about this. Sorry to make things kind of serious or bummery. But
I don't think so. I think it adds a human element, and that's something we always need to remember, that there's always somebody behind everything that goes on in the world.
Yeah. I think that's a really nice point to end this topic on, Serby. So very good bookend statement there. So this is going to be just a smooth transition I make right now. That's not going to be awkward at all. Because what I'm doing is I'm going to transition from talking about a tragic death to Spanx. Well, not just Spanx, but if I understand this correctly, this is going to lead into the topic. Spanx are it's an undergarment. I think they're largely marketed at people who identify as women, and they are meant to like. What does a Spanx do?
It's shapewear. So as a woman who's very familiar with Spanx, it's shapewear. So the idea is like if you're wearing a dress or something, it just kind of like creates like more of an hourglass figure.
Mm-hmm.
It can like just shape you a little bit better. That's Spanx.
Okay, and we're talking about Spanx, right? Because their chief executive officer, or the person who started the company, did something very interesting.
Yes. So the CEO of Spanx is Sarah Blakely, and she was the youngest self-made female billionaire. And she originally sold fax machines door to door because she needed money. And then she started Spanx, and she only had something like $5,000 in savings. And then she launched this incredible company. So you can think of Spanx as like a modern day version of a corset. Bit different, but same idea. So she started Spanx about 20 years ago. And recently, Blackstone, which is an investment firm, bought a majority stake. And now the company is valued at $1.2 billion. And she was so excited and so proud and so grateful that all of her employees, which I think it's about 500, contributed to Spanx's success, that she decided that she would buy every single employee 2 first-class tickets to anywhere in the world, and everyone would get $10,000. And she said that like she reflected a lot. It was actually really nice the way that she talked about it, where she reflected on how difficult it is for women to thrive in business. And I'm going to read some of the statements that she said when she made this announcement. She said, "To stand here today and to think about what we've been able to create and what we've been able to do by being authentic and kind and delivering amazing products to women to use their very feminine principles in a very masculine space, which is business, leading with intuition, vulnerability. This marks a moment for female entrepreneurs. This is a very big moment for each and every one of you, and I want to toast the women that came before me and all of the women in the world who have not had this opportunity." And she urged for more support for female-led business. And as a woman in business, as a woman who works in startups, I was incredibly touched by her words. And I think it's such a lovely way of recognizing everyone's hard work. And only 50% of entrepreneurs are women, but they only receive 2.3% of venture capital. So it's mind-blowing to me that she is so successful. And I'm so happy. And I loved that she decided to recognize her team members. And when employees were asked what they would do with these gifts, the first class tickets and the $10,000, some of them said that they would go on their honeymoon. Others said that they would they would have an elopement in Sweden. And one person said that they would go on a safari in South Africa. So this is a great way to just support the people who have supported her. And I've worked at startups and I've had great perks in my career, but no one ever bought me first class tickets or gave me $10,000 when the company I worked at became $1 billion company. And I think this is amazing. I'm very, very happy about it. Anyway, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm curious, Robin, do I remember this correctly? Were you last on this show when we were talking about like startup perks in workplaces?
I don't think so, but
okay, sorry. I thought you might have been. I know it's something we talked about recently. Reminded me of it, but yeah, Robin, what do you think about the Spanx benefits?
The Spanx benefits. I think that was really sweet. I read the article and I thought, yeah, that's pretty adorable. And obviously it's something that people should be rewarded for their their service to a company that becomes like $1 billion company and stuff. And I think that's a really good way to operate, and especially like being like an amazing woman in business and stuff like that. But like $10,000 is such a small proportion of 1.2 billion. Obviously they're not going to give it all to the employees, but I looked it up and there's like a lot of zeros after the 0 point. And it makes me a bit sad thinking about how much businesses earn and then you get the little tiny people at the bottom. But this is kind of like a nice story. And I don't really want to ruin it by being too anti-capitalist. So I'm just be quiet.
That's really responsible of you. I'll ruin it because I did try. And like data like this, I feel like is always iffy. But I tried to look up average salaries at Spanx, and I looked at a few different sources today. It's fine, but their salaries aren't great. So I do think, kind of in the same way, and this is what I was thinking about the episode. It was a few episodes ago we talked about kind of like cool perks in offices. And I think that time I probably also ranted and was like, I don't need like fancy food, just like give me more time off, better benefits, all that sort of stuff. So I just do think it is easy to do a one-time thing and do a very nice thing, which if I worked there, I would be psyched. That's super cool. I get it. But I'm also just like, I'll just be very blunt. I work for a company that's owned by a bigger company. If the parent company of Wisecrack got sold or did something for billions of dollars and they gave us all $10,000 bonuses, I would still kind of be like, I don't care. Give us raises, give us 4 weeks paid vacation or whatever it might be. The other thing I'll say, we can pause. Serby probably wants to kill me right now. So
No.
I'm going to say one more cranky thing. Do you want to get mad at me before I say my other cranky thing?
No, say it.
Okay, I'll say this. Blackstone, the company that paid for this, is one of the most evil places in the world. Here's some stuff Blackstone's done. Speaking of like empowering people, Blackstone owns Motel 6, a company that they approved of giving list of their guests to ICE, immigration enforcement, without warrants and getting people, many of them women and children, forcefully removed from the United States of America. In 2019, a United Nations report found that Blackstone's massive purchasing of single-family homes after the financial crisis had devastating consequences. And let's see, and it disproportionately affected communities of color, in part because the company targeted foreclosures resulting from subprime loans. Also, they spent $6.2 million to defeat California's Proposition 10, which would have allowed cities to enact rent control. So all I'll say is, I'm not saying this is the CEO of Spanx's fault. I'm saying that sometimes stuff like this happens, and it's like, this is in the very immediate, it's cool for these employees, but then zooming out a little bit, it's like, yeah, sure, and all this money that the people who run the company are going to get is from an investment firm that has no qualms in ruining the lives of people of color and, you know, people who are trying to find a better life in America if it improves their bottom line. So it's just there's darkness on the horizon of this, and I had to be the cranky piece of shit by bringing that up. And now Serby can yell at me if you want. I'm so sorry.
So the first part of what you said about it's a great one-time gesture, and it would be nice if, like, how about they just pay people better wages? I am curious, when you looked at the average, I'm not saying that Spanx,
yeah,
I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm curious about the wages. Were they competitive for the roles? Because it is like a manufacturing, like, so like, was the pay competitive for like a sewer or garment buyer or something like that?
Well, so this is a great question. Is it like, how far down did this go? Was it every single employee of the company,
I think it's
including like
every
drivers, people that make the stuff in factory? Because I'm sure most of their stuff is made overseas, right?
So I'm not sure about whether it's like overseas factory employees or if it's just like corporate employees.
Yeah.
But from the articles that I've read, it was 500 plus employees. Every employee was what I saw. So I think it's like the assistant sewer all the way to like the CFO.
Yeah, I'd be curious about that. I definitely, So the salaries I found were just, you know, on like Glassdoor, PayScale, some other stuff. And once again, I'm aware, like, I've worked at places where I've looked up salaries on those and I'm just like, nope. But they were like average corporate salaries. You know, a lot of things, a lot of the roles were in the, I would say, the $60,000 to $80,000 a year range for a lot of jobs, which I don't want to be bratty. If you live in a major city, you can live life. It's not crazy though. Yeah. So I just feel like if I was making $75,000 a year and this happened, I would be like, can I just make $100,000 a year, please?
Yeah. Can you just give me the money in lieu of the first class ticket? Can you just give me that money?
Yeah. Well, because I do kind of think it's like the marshmallow experiment they did, the famous, like the impulse control thing with the
yeah.
kids. Do you want the one marshmallow now, or can you wait and have two later? And I kind of feel like when businesses do stuff like this, it's just giving us one very big marshmallow right in front of us so that we don't ask questions about where the other marshmallows are.
So do you want 10,000 marshmallows now or 100,000 marshmallows in like a year?
I hate this analogy because it makes me feel sick because I think marshmallows are so disgusting. And in my mind, they're made of like horse bones. Is that true?
I have no idea.
That in my mind, if you asked me what are marshmallows, I would tell you, and I would mean this. They're like from ground up horse bones.
It's like, can we stop? It's like I'm having physical.
Is that not real?
Producer
Maddie, can you look into this as we go where? Okay, but sorry, away from marshmallows, back to you, Serby.
I've also, like, while you were talking, I realized, I think I might just, everything you're saying makes sense. I agree with it. However, I feel like maybe I'm so broken as a person from having worked at startups for so long that I'm almost like, crumbs, like, yay, like you're gonna give me something for all my hard work, like that's so nice of you, like, and that's how I feel. But when you were talking about it, I was like, wait a second, you're right, like I should be getting paid more. Like, why are you throwing me like 2 first class tickets and 10 G's? Like, just pay me a decent salary and like make my health insurance a little bit better.
Yeah. Listen, I've been at corporate events before where I'm working for, it does like a happy hour, and I get 11 chicken wings and 3 beers, and I'm like, this is great. As the person who's, fucking paying for it, like, makes 9 times as much as me. So, like, I completely get that. I'm just cranky, so it's easier for me to get cranky about stuff. And I just, and I feel like too, because everything you say is completely right. That like there's massive, horrible gender disparity, and of course racial disparity in the corporate world. And it's never like a bad thing when it's not just old white dudes that look like old babies are succeeding. Because whenever I think of really successful male business CEOs, they always look like babies who are old. If someone wants to Google see, you know what I mean? Like and I can use this phrase, like a old bald man, but like a baby, but you put a photo filter on it and said, make this baby old. And most billionaires look like that in my mind.
I just like how you said they look like old babies. And I mean, old babies are called adults. So
No, but I'm saying a baby that's old. Wasn't there a movie about that came out?
Benjamin Button.
Yeah, that, or the movie where you go to the beach and it makes you old. The M. Night Shyamalan film?
I don't watch any of his films.
Oh, it was called Old. But yeah. But yeah, so I don't know. But I don't know. So I think incredible thing this person did. If my boss called me today and was like, they were like, we're giving you 2 domestic business class seats and $5,000. I would be like, Daddy made it. Like, what else can happen in life? So I like totally get it, but just not being in that situation, it's a little bit easier to do that. And I will say, when I saw the word Blackstone in one of the articles, I was like, uh-oh, these are the bad guys. But
the way that you like yelled all of your criticism for Blackstone was like, it's so intense. Like it got me riled up. It was great. I was enthralled.
But that's the thing with like these like finance companies and capital companies. They just do the gnarliest shit and we never hear about it because it's always done in the guise of like corporate influencing or whatever. And it's not just like a person doing a bad thing, but but to be fair, no company's good. I'm not saying that like Blackstone's the bad one and all the other companies are just so great. So there you go. Does anyone have a favorite company?
I like Patagonia.
Patagonia? Ooh, that's a good one. That's like probably the best choice.
Yeah.
Now that I put pressure on Robin because I already said you did the best choice. I should have waited to say that. Robin, do you have a favorite company?
I honestly, I don't know a lot about companies. I don't know. Like what I've learned.
And look
in this
at you
podcast
being like, I'm the good person. I don't know about companies.
I don't buy enough things. You've talked about buying houses. You've talked about how you're buying a car. You talked
That's
about
all
your
I do.
favorite
I'm constantly purchasing property.
Big landlord Michael.
Yes,
Amazing.
that's my dream.
Is that what they call you?
They call me that in the neighborhood, Big Landlord Michael. I think Patagonia is maybe the best thing. I do like the company Yeti, which I'm sure is evil. I like them just because all they make are accessories for drinking outdoors. They make cups, coolers, other types of cups, mugs, and I'm someone who loves beverages. So I do appreciate that the entire thing their company does is helps you drink beverages at ideal temperatures no matter where you are.
So a friend of mine has the Yeti Rambler.
Oh, yeah.
It's called. Yeah. And she tested it. She put ice in it and it was still ice like 2 days later. I'm like, what kind of drinking vessel is this?
Guys, I have a Yeti cooler sitting in a box behind me right now. It was on my wedding registry, and I guess people like buy you gifts sometimes before the wedding, and because of superstition, I've told my partner we are not allowed to open any of the wedding gifts until we actually go through with it, because she could pull a runaway bride on me, and then it would be like a jinx. But very excited to use this Yeti cooler, and I probably will just do experiments with it. Put cold things in and see how long it lasts. Okay, so there's the good companies. We should probably move on. But if you want to tell us what your favorite company is, if you want to tell us about working conditions in your industry, if you want to tell us about what you would rather have, first class tickets and $10,000 or long-term incremental salary raises, let us know. You can hit us up at culturebinge@wisecrack.co. That's culturebinge@wisecrack.co. Or you can call us at 213-534-8807. That is 213-534-8807. And I did just completely change my mind on this topic because you know what? Like, you could die tomorrow, so you might as well just take the money and the flights while you can. So we have a couple emails we'll get into right now. First one's from Fernando, and this is about the topic we talked about of revenge bedtime procrastination. They said that we hit on something with the piss protest theory. This is one in that topic. I somehow talked about pissing your pants as an act of protest, and I think encouraged people to do that. But this was related to an article by Anne Helen Peterson, and Fernando said, as Peterson said herself in the article, the getting back at the employer theory kind of falls apart with the examples of self-employed people, so there should be more to that. Oh yeah, it was like you pee your pants to get back at your employer if you're self-employed. While listening to the episode, I was reminded of some stuff I've been reading about child rearing, as Fernando and his wife are trying to have their first kid. Congrats. And the thing is, children act out, do bad behavior, often because that's the only outlet they have for expressing their frustration. Now, modern adult life can be incredibly frustrating, and it's easy to feel like you have no control over your own life. When money seems to always be short of what you need, when social media makes it look like you're the only person to not have your shit together, and the hours vanish into thin air even outside of work, this is so real, leaving you with no time to deal with what you want, I think it's just natural to look for an outlet in frustration. And Fernando said a little bit more. Great email. I got to get to the last part, though. Fernando says, that's it for the main topic. Now, for a random bit of classification. If you guys were D&D classes, Michael would be a barbarian, rampaging with wild abandon across the day's topics. Servi would be a cleric, since everything would fall apart without her. That's good. And then Helen, who's been on a few times recently, Helen would be a warlock, someone who can bring mysterious and slightly dodgy powers to the table. And Alec, rest in peace, would be a first edition assassin, gone from the game but not forgotten. To be clear, I said really rest in peace. Alec's not dead. He's just not on the show, but I insist on saying rest in peace. But Alec Opperman is alive. I just want to make that clear. He's in the wilderness, but he's alive.
One day he might actually die, and you'll have to be like, this one was real, guys.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Do you guys ever feel like that? That's sort of like, and Fernando in the email also brings up like the childish stuff we do to like rebel, like staying up late, eating junk food, whatever it is. Do you guys ever feel? I mean, Robin, you weren't on that episode, so I'll give you the floor. Do you ever feel like you like rebel against the shittiness of life by staying up too late, doing things that don't even benefit you, just to kind of like lash out against the world? Not to put you on the spot, but
yeah, I guess a little bit. I think it wouldn't really be like staying up late or eating junk food or whatever. It'd be like going down to the bar and, going to a
Yeah.
party with strangers till like 5 a.m. and then getting up and going to work after an hour's sleep.
I felt that in my bones, in that I've done things like that before, and if I tried to do it now, I would die.
So I don't do that consciously. Like, I'm going to stay up late as like a big FU to society, or I'm going to drink this ginger ale for I don't know.
That was Serbi's example of
rebellious.
rebelling. This shows you how Serbi is like not a self-destructive, rebellious person. That her example was like, I drink a ginger ale. Robin's out here like, I met some strangers and drank out of a vodka bottle till 5 a.m. and went to work. Serbi's drinking ginger ale.
In the back of a van with 7 strangers. I met them 20 minutes earlier.
That's scary. Don't do that again. That's so dangerous.
I know.
They're really nice.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So, but I do feel like I think maybe it's an impulse control issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The impulse for ginger ale.
The impulse for drinking ginger ale straight from the can.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, you didn't say that.
Control.
I'm living on the edge, Robin.
Wow. Well, I'm just the normal guy here with a couple reckless badasses trying to do a podcast. So we'll do another email real quick. So the last episode where we had Raymond and Allison Herman on, we talked about the Bad Art Friend article in the New York Times that took over the internet for 72 hours. And Stephen said that they've recently been studying historical Christian teaching on virtue and found the conversation on Bad Art Friend fascinating and relevant. They appreciated our comment relating to Jesus' word on the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew 6. Oh, yeah, this is the episode where I vaguely quoted what I thought the Bible said and was so afraid it was going to be wrong and someone was going to be mad. And I think I wasn't super wrong. So this is the quote that Stephen sent to us. Be careful not to do your acts of righteousness in front of men, that you may be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. So when you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets like the hypocrites do in the synagogues and on the streets to be seen by men. I tell you the truth, they've already received their reward in full. But when they do give to the needy, yeah, this is the quote that I said, do not let your right hand know what your left hand is doing, so that your giving may be done in secret. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. Yeah, so I mean, I like that because I was saying for anyone who didn't hear that episode or whatever, this article largely involves someone who donated a kidney and then told everyone how she donated a kidney and made like a Facebook page about she donated her kidney and got mad when other people didn't say good job for donating your kidney. It's more complicated than that. But my take on that was I was like, oh, there's a part in the Bible about this that I think is good. That's like, if you're going to do a good thing, shut the fuck up about it. That Bible didn't say fuck, but. And yeah, I think that's like a super great moral principle. I think it's obnoxious. If you do a good thing, don't do it for attention. Do it because you want to be a good person.
Definitely. I hate all those videos of people being like, I gave this homeless person 6 chips from my McDonald's. And so I'm basically a king. The other day, now it sounds like I'm bragging about it, but I got a homeless person a coffee from Greg's, whatever, and then I was gonna ironically tweet I just did a nice thing for a homeless person and didn't even tweet about it, but then I was like, no, because what if people don't know that's ironic, and now they think that I'm actually doing it, and that terrified me, so I didn't, because people can't read sarcasm. But yeah, I just think if you're gonna be nice for the sake of being nice.
I agree.
Yeah, and Stephen went on to say some cool stuff about vainglory, one of the deadly sins, and how he wrote a really great long email, but at the end he says the problem with vainglory is the more virtuous we become, the more things there are in us that we would love recognition for. I think that's just a great thought in general. Yeah, to not have ways of being in which you love that recognition. Also, I'll say a quick shout out to our buddy Dude Abides in the chat. We see you. We love you. Thanks for being there. Thanks for your movie recommendations. Thanks to those in the chat who brought up some really interesting stuff. As well about the other topics we talked about. Sorry, I can't get into the whole chat, but I really appreciate everyone for being active in the chat. We have a few minutes, so I'm just going to quickly, and I'm going to expand on this in a Patreon thing. We got an email I wanted to respond to briefly. This is from Adam, and Adam said, I've been a longtime follower of the show to the point where seeing that a new podcast has been uploaded is in many ways the highlight of my week. Oh my God, that's the sweetest thing ever. I was wondering if it would be possible to have Michael talk about his experiences in academia. I know for my part, I've been in conversation with a lot of graduate students, and the age-old question of jumping into academia always gets discussed. It'd be really helpful to have a brief summary of what life in academia looks like, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and what ultimately led him to decide that academia wasn't for him. to be vain and talk about my life. I'll say a short thing about this now because I have gotten other questions about this, and I know it's something we talk about on the show. And then I'll say this, so we're committed to doing it. We'll do a Patreon thing for that as well. Also a plug. If you like the podcast, Wisecrack's Patreon is now doing special Culture Binge content, including interviews with guests, special topics, other things. You can check that out. And it's pretty cheap. I think you get in for like $5 a month. I'll say this, academia, it sucks a lot more than you think it will. You expect to enter a place where your whole life is going to be either reading, studying, thinking about big ideas, and then transmitting those big ideas in a conversation with eager students who just want to learn. Both sides of that become crap because on the one side, are there students who are eager to learn? Yes. But are there a lot of people who have to work 30 hours a week just to pay to be in university, and they have a bunch of loans, and maybe because how much their life sucks, they want to party and get in vans with strangers and stuff like that. So they're kind of not fully engaged. On the other side, you're not getting a lot of encouragement to like do research and expand your intellectual wings, because a lot of universities now evaluate things in terms of like the last university I worked at, the University of the West of England. Shout out to my colleagues there. They ruled, but those administrators can eat butt until they die, because they tried to evaluate how well we did at teaching philosophy in terms of how quickly our students got jobs. And there is, yes. And they wouldn't include, so for example, we had a lot of students who had finished studying philosophy and go work as like a barista or work in a pub for a year just to like take some time off, read, hang out, enjoy life. But that didn't count because those weren't the right kind of jobs. So we would be punished as a department in terms of like funding and resources if we weren't funneling students right into the job market. And I don't know. And I just think like, there's just a lot of things about academia that feel very pyramid schemey. Like you get in grad school and you're just encouraged to keep going. And all on the way, you're like, this seems weird. Like, am I ever going to make money? Am I going in debt for this? And people are just like, no, keep going, keep going, keep going. And it's really hard. There's great pockets of academia if you can make them work. There's wonderful people in there. Most of my friends who still are in academia love ideas. They love thinking and they love working with students. And they're there for, to use bachelor terminology, the right reasons. But the people that run academia are ghouls. They are like the people that run Blackstone and other companies like that. Most people that run universities have never taught in their entire life. They have no experience working with students, and they get paid more than anyone on the goddamn campus to just like slash and cut and evaluate things. And that sucks, and it's hard. And yeah, and I think, you know, Adam says this, realizing academia wasn't for me. It was just realizing that it was making me like really unhappy. And it's a privilege to even think about happiness when it comes to work. And I just want to like say that I recognize that. But I will say that for my first 3 years out of academia, I was like making no money as well. But yeah, post-academia life for me, and I'll talk about this more in the Patreon thing, it made me realize that like all jobs kind of suck. Some jobs suck in different ways, but at least when you're not in academia, there's not this pressure that everything you do connects to like the eternal goodness of ideas, and it's like a spiritual vocation. So that's my quick response to Adam. We'll talk about it more later, but if you're in grad school now, hey, keep your chin up, bud. It's all going to work out. Yeah, but that was all for today. Robin, thank you so much. And I hope everyone knows Robin is in the UK. She's staying up late to be with us. She could be out finding raucous parties to get involved with, but she's hanging out with us.
You could be in the back of someone's van right now.
Yeah, you could be in the back of a van. So we really appreciate you staying out of the van and staying with us. And Serbi as well, on her first vacation in forever. She should be on vacations all the time, taking the time to be here, prioritizing Culture Binge. It's incredible. So real quick, Serbi, where can people find you? Not literally on vacation. We will never tell them where you are. But on the internet, where can they find you?
Twitter, Serbi Patel 22.
Robin, and also say this, Robin, who everyone should know, is also a writer at Wisecrack, pumps out some great stuff. What's the most recent video you finished up?
I just finished the Hustle Culture one. Yeah.
Oh, video coming out, Hustle Culture. You guys are going to love it. It's hosted by your favorite host, not me. I was being honest. It's your favorite host, not me, Greg Edwards. I love him too. I get it. So you can look out for that, and always pay attention when you love a Wisecrack video. Look at who wrote it. There's real people. Everyone's always just like, I like the videos that Michael hosts or when Helen hosts. We don't write most of them, friends. We have a great team of writers, so don't blame any of us. Look at who writes them. Robin writes a lot of them. Other people write stuff. They're all great. I love them. I would give them plane tickets if I could. Can't afford it. Robin, where can people find you on the internet?
My Twitter is @RobinChowdhury, my full real name.
Wow. I have my full real name too, at Michael O. Burns. And if you want to find me on Instagram, just put underscores around the O's. We'll be back soon. Also, keep an eye out. We're going to do some other cool patron stuff coming up. We're going to do some bonus episodes where I interview some fun people. I might be interviewing some Brits soon. I might be interviewing some British lads about why work sucks. So our favorite topic. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We'll be back in 2 weeks. This has been Culture Binge. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Serby. And thanks most of all to our producer, Maddie, who makes it all happen.
Yay,
See you next
Maddie.
time.
Bye.